Hey everybody, Andrew King here from The Gamer. I'm here with Tom Guinan, lead developer at Mixed Games, which are making Rugrats Adventures in Gameland. Now, Tom, you told me that started out as like the NES version of the game with like pixel art and sort of more limited graphics, and now has evolved to have this really HD, gorgeous style that looks just like the show. Can you talk to us about how that process went, how it went from being that pixelated game to having both that you can switch between?
Yeah, so even the pixelated game, it's a brand new game that we developed.
Right.
It's not a re-release of an old game. So
right.
What we really wanted to do, like I've got a passion for 8-bit 2D platformers, like our whole team does, and what we really wanted to do was like bring back that era of like good quality licensed 2D platformers.
Yeah.
And similar to like Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers and DuckTales and or games like Super Mario 2 and Mega Man, that era of gameplay.
Right.
Harkening back to that, there's a lot of games coming out in that style, but people aren't releasing it as an actual NES game so much. So we really wanted to do that. That was something that was really important to us, but we also wanted something that would be a good experience on modern consoles.
Right.
So having that HD toggle in there, it's something that's really cool because you can either play it looking like the retro game, or you can play it looking like a modern game.
Right.
Yeah.
So something I'm curious about is just what the challenges are that arise when you're making something for an NES. Like in some ways I'd imagine it's easier, you've got modern hardware, you're not using like a 1980s computer to develop this, but at the same time there isn't that wealth of knowledge out there of developers who have been working with it. So I'm curious what obstacles you ran into while making it.
Yeah, so as far as retro consoles go, the NES is probably, just because there's such a huge fan base for it, it's actually pretty well documented just through like reverse engineering and that kind of stuff. So there's a pretty big NES homebrew sort of development scene that exists that I've been a part of for a long time. So having that knowledge available was really, really cool. And in developing the game, like I said, we started out by developing it as an 8-bit game first.
Yeah.
So that when we moved on to HD development, we already had this mature, finished game that we were then porting to HD. So it was like, then we weren't, when you play the HD version, play the 8-bit version, you're not actually losing anything by going to 8-bit, because the game was feature complete at that point.
Right, yeah. So something that I noticed, you mentioned Super Mario 2, and when I was playing, I was like, this is like, Super Mario Bros. 2 is one of the only games I think of where you have like vertical platforming as much as you have horizontal platforming. Like now we think of them as either being like side-scroller or Metroidvania. Yeah. So how do you have to think when you're developing like that kind of level? Does it feel different than developing like sort of those more traditional 2D side-scroller levels?
Yeah, it is different, and it's something that it isn't, it isn't emulated. You said Metroidvania, and it really is like a lot of times people either have that point A to point B, left to right game, or they go Metroidvania. But going with something, that's sort of where the Mega Man inspiration comes in as well. Like Mega Man, Mario 2, they had very interesting level layouts where you had that verticality to them.
Right.
You didn't necessarily go A to B. You would go, left to right, and then you might climb a ladder and go up a screen, and then go left, and then I just always found that an interesting, an interesting way to go about level design.
Yeah.
So we tried to implement some of that. And I think it does give it that classic feel, because it's something that you don't see as often these days.
Right. Yeah, something I'm curious about is that Rugrats obviously originally a kids franchise. Now people that love Rugrats are like you or me, have grown up or in their like 20s, 30s, 40s. So how do you think about serving both of those audiences? Like we just had like some kids over here that were playing the game, having a great time laughing, but then I'm playing the game and also like, being challenged by a boss battle that I ran into. How do you like sort of bridge the gap between kids and, kids at heart?
Yeah, so that's really the target audience I went for is people like me, and I wanted to pick the kind of games that we had when I was a kid, because a lot of those older platformers didn't necessarily hold your hand. There's that phrase, Nintendo hard,
right?
Where it's, you got to keep trying over and over again.
Yeah.
And when it was done right, you had a game that had a challenge that was fair.
Yeah.
It wasn't overly frustrating. It would kind of keep that carrot dangling, and you would want to come back to it.
Right.
Which you kind of did. You played through the whole demo twice just to beat the boss.
Yeah.
Which was really cool for me to see, because it showed that there was that, you had that feeling where you weren't frustrated with the game's controls. It was more like, no, I got to do this
right. It was like I was so close.
Yeah, exactly. So it's something that I think that it's just that hook of the gameplay is important.
Yeah.
We also do have difficulty modes. So
Okay,
if people want like a more difficult challenge, we've got a more difficult mode as opposed to the standard mode, which the demo is. And there's also an easier mode where you have unlimited respawns.
Yeah.
So, which is good for, say, like if you have a parent, maybe like a younger kid who's like 4 years old, something like that. When you're playing co-op, you can revive each other.
Yeah.
So there's some of these quality of life things that are nice to have.
And you can carry each other around, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you can carry each other around, sort of Chip and Dale style, where you pick each other up. And that kind of gameplay is always fun too, because you can use it as co-op. Say if kids having trouble with the jump, you can pick them up and do the jump for them. Yeah. But if you're playing with your friend, you might want to pick them up and throw them in a hole, just to be a jerk. You know what I mean? So having those options is always fun. Yeah,
when we were playing, I played through a level that was like short and was sort of modeled on the theme song that was set in the house. And then I played through one that was Sand in My Diaper, which is based on, is the episode called the same thing?
No.
Okay.
But it was, it's sort of, there's sort of a combination of different themes in some of the episodes. So like there were episodes where they were in the sandbox or somewhere pretending they were in a desert. Yeah. There was the Passover special where they pretend they were in ancient Egypt, and we had that Angelica Sphinx in the back.
Right, yeah.
To sort of fall back to that Angelica as Pharaoh moment. So we wanted to pick moments, make our own original content, but also refer back to some of those classic moments. Yeah, awesome. Well, I had a great time playing the game. I'm looking forward to picking it up when it comes out. When? It's coming out later this spring. Okay. We don't have a hard release date yet, but pre-orders are up right now on limited run games until April 21st, I believe. Yeah. So that's the only way to get the NES cartridge is by pre-ordering through limited run. But we do have a digital release coming in like later this spring, and All right. So you heard it here first, folks. Rugrats Adventures in Gameland is coming to NES and modern consoles later this spring. Tom Guinan, thanks for talking with us. All right, thank you. Andrew King from The Gamer. Peace.